It pains me to make this video because I really do genuinely love my MacBook Pro. It is a complete beast. I bought it back in late 2021. It feels weird that we're coming up on the 4th year of ownership, and this thing has been abused. This thing has been used in direct daylight. It's been running hot. It's been live streaming. It's been editing 4K at 60 content constantly, usually exporting 2 to 3, sometimes 4 videos a day, almost non-stop for the past 4 years, and it's held up incredibly well. I love the speakers. I love the built-in microphones. The webcam is fantastic. The battery life has changed a bit over time, but it's still very good. But all that being said, I'm starting to have some issues with it that are not quite there, but they're potential deal breakers, and I'm thinking of replacing it. Let's begin. So believe it or not, the issues I'm having with my Mac actually have nothing to do with the performance. A lot of people are probably used to that complaint. When they have a laptop for a few years, they start to go, oh man, it's slowing down. The performance is just not all that great. It takes too long to export things. No, that's actually the one thing in this Mac that hasn't changed over the years. It can still export content really, really fast with the combination of Apple optimizing Final Cut so well for their own custom silicon. No matter what third-party editing software I try, no one can beat the speed of Final Cut Pro, and I love that at least right now it's still not a membership, and I can throw all of my footage on this thing really, really quick, edit it fast, have great playback speeds, and export it quickly. That part is great. What's starting to show some signs of age, and this is probably partly my fault, of course, because I've used it so much, is the battery life. Like, yeah, I've probably been spoiled because when I bought it, it was like the best battery life you could ever get in a Mac, and I've tried my best to kind of baby it. You know, I leave my Mac plugged in as much as possible. I downloaded Al Dente and capped the battery at 80%, and it doesn't seem like either using Al Dente or turning on optimized battery charging, I've tried both, has slowed down the degradation on my MacBook all that much. We've reached a point now where the battery health has now worked its way down to 82%, which given the age of the Mac is not that big of a surprise, but what's a bigger surprise is given the cycle count, because I know when you leave it plugged in and you're not charging the battery, it's pulling all of the power from the wall. You know, it's getting it from the power adapter. It's not getting it from the battery. And the cycle count is pretty low, in my opinion, considering the battery health. It's not like an iPhone where, you know, you get hundreds and hundreds of cycles over the course of a couple years. Now, the MacBook has definitely been getting a lot of use, but the cycle count is not particularly high for like a 4-year-old machine, and yet the battery health is going down, and I am starting to notice it more because with my new job at Tailosive and helping out my wife at her work on occasion, I'm using my Mac on the go quite regularly, and I'm starting to realize like, oh man, I gotta keep this thing plugged in because if I'm not careful, I'm gonna kill it, and then I'm not gonna be able to work, of course, unless I have some kind of battery nearby. And I know what all of you are probably commenting already. Just go to an Apple store and replace the battery. It only costs a couple $100. Well, that's a decent solution, and I'm not trying to scoff at that, but that's not the biggest issue I'm having with this thing. The battery degradation is somewhat of a concern, but it's manageable. I can live with it. The battery is still decent, and I'm usually pretty close by to where a power adapter is, and I can just plug in and charge it as needed. So that's not the deal breaker. What's slowly becoming one, though, is Bluetooth issues with the M1 chips. This is possibly a problem that has been around for a while, and maybe I just didn't notice it that much in the early days, but I don't know if something changed with my AirPods Pro. You know, I have the 2nd generation with USB-C version now, so it's kind of more like 2.5. They did actually change the modems in these AirPods compared to the AirPods Pro 2 with Lightning case. It's a whole thing. It's weird, but I've had so much connectivity issues with my AirPods Pro, and there's so many times where, like I said, I'm editing on the go. Sometimes I'm editing in public. I'm editing around other people, and I can't just have my speakers blaring anymore, you know? And I love my AirPods for the noise cancellation. Helps me block out whatever other noises are going on outside and really focus in on how my videos sound or how the audio sounds for whatever videos I'm editing. And you get this latency, but it's not just like out of sync. It's not just like you hit pause and then you have to wait a couple seconds. It's like it completely loses the audio file. It cuts out and starts making these horrible like noises when you're just trying to listen to an audio feed, and I can't find an easy solution, you know? Like I take the AirPods out, put them in the charge case, and I'm like, okay, think about what you've done. Then I take them out of the AirPods and they work again for a couple minutes and then they start glitching out again. And maybe this was a problem earlier, but when I first got this MacBook Pro, you know, I wasn't working as much as I am now. I didn't have to to be on the go as much as I am now. I wasn't using headphones as much for video editing. So maybe that was the same issue back then and I just didn't notice, but it's really coming up a lot now where I'm genuinely just trying to edit a video as quickly as I can and the audio keeps throwing me off. And I'm like, this is kind of annoying because it's an Apple-made MacBook with Apple-made software and Apple-made headphones. Everything should just work in classic Apple fashion, but I looked it up and there have been many complaints with M1 users specifically when it comes to Bluetooth connectivity issues. And I'm pretty confident it does have something to do with the MacBook Pro because I never have this issue when I use my AirPods with my iPhone, which I do very regularly for listening to music, podcasts. Even when I do some light video editing on my iPhone, never notice this issue on any other device that I connect the AirPods to. Even the Apple TV works fine with the AirPods, but the Mac, no. This one freaks out, especially whenever I'm in the middle of editing something, and that genuinely is slowing down my workflow. So it gets annoying, and there's probably a few compromise solutions I could consider, like just going back to using wired headphones for editing. That would probably solve the issue, but again, eats into the battery life a little bit more, and I've just never liked wired headphones in the first place. So just out of curiosity, I wanted to entertain, okay, let's just say I'm tired with this MacBook, I'm sick of the degradation, and I'm also editing on the go a lot in direct sunlight, and I get kind of tired with the screen brightness being not all that great when you're editing outside or when you're editing in public. The screen doesn't get as bright as I would like, even when you use software like Vivid to try to artificially boost the mini LEDs. But I saw a lot of people comment when I talked about my next Mac purchase that like, Drew, you gotta try out the nano textured glass on the new M4 MacBook Pros because that helps with the reflections, that helps the display come across a lot brighter. So just out of curiosity, I wanted to spec what a new MacBook would cost me to replace the MacBook I have right now. All right, let's go to the Mac section here. We're gonna build my dream MacBook. Oh my God, Apple Intelligence. That's what I really need. Oh, I actually have that on my existing MacBook. So 16 inches is like as small as I'm willing to go when it comes to MacBooks because I already feel like my MacBook Pro is not big enough. Like I would take a 18-inch Mac if they made one. I'm not gonna make the same mistake again though. If I were to buy one today, definitely going silver. Everything else is kind of white and silver in my ecosystem. So I wish they had a brighter shade, but honestly, I don't really need the M4 Max. So let me select the M4 Pro variant. I want the big screen. And because I've heard so many people mention that the nano texture display allows it to be a lot brighter in direct sunlight and you're not fighting as many reflections, $150 when you're already spending, you know, like several $1,000s on a Mac is probably worth it. I don't know if it's actually gonna be worth it, but I'd like to see if it's actually makes a difference in direct sunlight. And then M4 Pro chip is fine for me because really the performance of the M1 Max is not my problem with it, but I realized Apple's probably changed some things down here. Oh yeah, okay. So first off, this is a lot of money on a RAM downgrade for me because I already have 32 gigs of unified memory in my current MacBook Pro. 24, it would probably be fine, but it just kind of feels weird to be upgrading my Mac and getting, you know, less RAM. But the bigger problem to me than memory, so like maybe I could up it to 48, but I have a ton of local storage. And like I said, I'm editing on the go constantly. I'm working sometimes in the car, I'm working on flights, and I've done the external drive thing. I know you can just add external storage later, but I get annoyed with it really quickly, fumbling around with the cables, occupying more space, and then I gotta travel around with not just my laptop, but also an SSD, and have to plug it in all the time, and I just have so much B-roll that I store locally. I really appreciate having a ton of local storage. What is that? Oh, geez. 4249 for 4 terabytes. That's half of what I have currently in my MacBook, but it's grayed out because apparently you need the M4 Max chip if you want 8 terabytes. So honestly, 48 gigs is probably more than I need. I'd be fine with just keeping the memory the same, but let me think about this for a second. This adds $400 and I can't get 8 terabytes with this configuration. But if I just downgrade the memory a bit, upgrade to the M4 Max, okay, so if you get the base model M4 Max, then you get 36 gigs of unified memory, which is still technically more than I have right now. With plenty, that's fine. I'm happy with 32. I just don't want to mess around and find out if I can get by buy with 24 because that would be kind of an expensive mistake. So if I go with 32 gigs, now I can get the 8 terabytes and we're at almost 6 grand. Ugh, geez. Yeah, I really should probably consider external storage, but I just love having access to it all locally so I don't have to fumble around with external drives. I've had them fail on me in the past, which gets annoying fast. It's very hard to store sometimes when you're like editing videos on, you know, a tray in front of you on a flight, to also have a big SSD you're pulling from all the time. So 6K, I mean, I have my Apple card, so I would get 3% back at least. Maybe I should wait for them to have another mysterious cash back promo where I can get 6% back temporarily. M4 Max is definitely going to be a much faster chip, but let's check my trade-in value really quick. It's funny to me when you put in your serial number, they still know nothing about the Mac, even though that should have given away everything. So mine was purchased at launch, so it was late 2021. Mine was the best of the best M1 Max you could get, of course, with the 8 terabytes of storage. Mine was the 16-inch, and yes, everything worked. It holds a charge, yes. Everything still works, exactly. It's in good physical shape, and okay, not a great trade-in value for what I paid, of course, but trade-in values are not meant to be competitive with resale value, guys. Remember that, like, this is just the floor. If you were to sell your MacBook used, definitely don't go lower than that, because Apple will give this much to me and I don't have to like find a buyer or anything. That's just an easy guaranteed value. So that's just the floor. I would probably sell it secondhand also, because I need to transfer a bunch of crap off of my old MacBook onto the new one. If I traded it in, I'm not sure I could actually transfer it right there in the store, but okay, that's what it would basically cost today if I felt like replacing it. So maybe I could sell my current MacBook Pro for like $1,500 or $1,600 subtracted from $5,849, and we're still talking in the ballpark of around 4 grand for a new MacBook. Maybe on the used market there's cheaper ones, but I don't know. We gotta think about this one. Now comes the fun, difficult decision. Like, sure, I understand I could probably save a lot of money by just going with external drives instead of having local SSDs, but I have so much locally stored B-roll. Yes, I have 8 terabytes on my MacBook Pro, and in the past couple months I genuinely did fill it up, because I'm not just recording videos for Tailosive anymore, I'm recording a ton of content for Telo Trucks, and there's a lot more footage with that job, but also footage you can't just delete. You have to kind of keep it around. You know, if we're getting really complicated, a lot of the footage that I store in my MacBook is not even like intellectually mine anymore. It like belongs to someone else. So I'm very cautious and careful about making sure it's saved and backed up and all that. And when you're editing videos on a flight, or you're editing videos in the car and someone else is driving, it gets very tiring and very old to be like, hold on, let me edit on my Mac and get my external drive so I have all of that B-roll ready to go. It's like frustrating. You got the cable flexing back and forth. I've had external drives in the past go bad on me. It's very frustrating. I've never had a local NAND go bad on me, like the drive in my computer, but I've had the external ones go bad, and it's just so dang convenient to not have to fuss around with moving files off of the Mac and back onto the Mac, because my time is very limited these days. So I don't really want to compromise on that 8 terabytes, but yeah, we're basically looking in the ballpark of around $4,000 for an upgrade. And it's not like my current Mac is unusable by any means. It's not like I absolutely need to upgrade right this second, like today, but I did make an agreement with my wife, because we spent a lot of money on this MacBook Pro, and she said, okay, Drew, if you were going to be dropping this much money, we want it to last for a while. So she said, I don't want you to spend that much money on a Mac again for the next 5 years. Okay, so that was 2021, meaning that my contract with the wife technically ends in 2026, which is really just 6 months away at this point. And there's a lot of talk, there's a lot of rumors going around for this OLED MacBook Pro being somewhat of a redesign, but I don't know if I'm gonna like the redesign, because the rumors are saying they're making it thinner and lighter. That's not necessarily the direction I want them to go in, but I do like OLED. I would appreciate a brighter display and better battery life, which an OLED should enable. So not making any finalized decisions in today's video, but I just wanted you guys to be aware at least of the current state of my MacBook, where I'm feeling about it, and what do you think I should do? Because I'm not against buying used in the future. I've been very happy with my Apple Watch, which I bought used, and maybe I should consider buying an M4 MacBook Pro secondhand once the OLED MacBook Pros come out, because then they're probably going to be half the price, and then I could get like a 8 terabyte M4 Max for like $2,000 instead of $4,000. I don't know. But what would you guys do in my scenario, in my situation? Knowing all those variables, feel free to let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And thank you to everybody supporting this channel directly. Seriously, helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos. So thanks again. This is your Apple Sleep here, and I will see you all in the next one.